All right, very good evening to all of you. Welcome to tonight's webinar. So, we are back with another live investment case study webinar tonight, where we are going to dive deeper to understand companies. Now, the last one that I did was 2 to 3 months back, and it was on Alibaba. Okay, so if you missed that webinar, you can actually still check out the replay, which is on the Joyful Investors YouTube channel. So let me just do a very quick one to share it with you. So if you head over to YouTube, right, you will see and go to the Joyful Investors YouTube channel, you will be able to see the previous one is this one. Okay, so this is the previous one. If you actually missed out, you can go back and rewatch the replay, right? As well as check out the other videos that are helpful for you in your investing journey. We cover on the US market, China market, Singapore markets as well, right? Okay, so for tonight's session, our spotlight is on this company called Booking Holdings, as you guys probably know when you sign up for this webinar, okay? Now, I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with Booking, so I'm going to ask you a quick question, right? Do you know what are some of the platforms that you have personally used before and that belongs to Booking Holdings? Can you just share it with me in the chat box? Any idea, any of the platforms that you have personally used before and it actually belongs to Booking Holdings? Right, just let me know in the chat box any platforms that come to your mind, right? So what are the brands, platforms that are under Booking? Okay, thank you, Brian. Booking.com, right? Okay, and any others aside from Booking.com? Which I think is the one that most people know. Or is it you guys only know about Booking.com? So no, nothing else. You see, chances are, even if you are not very familiar with this company Booking, you have probably interacted with one of its businesses before, like Booking.com or some of the other brands like Agoda and so on, right? And you have probably been a customer of this Booking Holdings. So this is where it makes investing even more interesting, because if you are already a customer, you will also want to find out whether it makes sense to be an investor for the same company. And that is what we're going to do in tonight's webinar. But just before that, one more slide on disclaimer. As usual, right? Please note that whatever I'm going to share with you tonight, because I'm going to cover on individual stock, which is Booking, right? But please note that I'm not trying to give you a buy call or a sell call, right? It's not a financial advice or a recommendation for you to buy or to short the company, but rather this is more educational. I'll be sharing with you some views, but all of these are my views, my analysis, right? So before you do any investment or trade, make sure you do your own proper research and due diligence, okay? So Booking Holdings is the largest online travel agency by revenue. So in short, we call this OTA, online travel agency. And it actually operates a portfolio of brands. I'll show you the brands in a while, okay? And these brands, they connect hundreds of millions of travelers around the world with accommodation, with transportation, with dining options. Okay, so when I say it's the world's largest online travel agency, why I say so is because if you take a look at the table over here that you see, you can see that by revenue, it is really the largest in size compared to, say, Expedia, Airbnb, or even Trip.com. Okay, and for Booking, it derives its revenue from, of course, as you guys probably are aware, through the online travel reservation services. But aside from that, they also do make money from payment facilitation, from some advertising, also other kind of booking like restaurants and other smaller services, right? So put very simply, this is the ecosystem of Booking Holdings. And what you see here are some of the main brands that are all under Booking Holdings. So earlier on, you guys all know, Booking.com is under Booking Holdings, which is very, very easy to identify because the name is the same, Booking. Yeah. But aside from Booking.com, right, what else do we have? We also have the other brands. And I think the other one that you should be very familiar with should be Agoda. Because in Singapore, I believe we do use Agoda as well, right? And then there will be other brands that maybe not so familiar, like Priceline, which is more for the North American market. And then they also have rentalcars.com, Kayak, Open Table, which is for the dining side. Okay, so you can rent car, can book dining reservation, can book hotel accommodation, and so on. Okay, but please note that this is not a full ecosystem because they also have other smaller brands. But I can share that these 6 brands that you see over here, right? These by and large, they are the top few most important brands to the group. Okay, so this is a very important business. Because why? In this day and age, you ask yourself, when you were planning for your trip, what was the first thing that you do? Do you now still walk into a travel agency to go and book your trip? Or do you just pull out your phone or open out your laptop to make your travel plans? Right? So ask yourself, which way do you do? Because I believe that yes, there are still people who go for package tours with a physical travel agency. Yes, there are. But I would say a good large portion of people these days, they like to plan their own trip. They like to make their own flight bookings, accommodation bookings. So this business, right, that booking is in, right, is something that is actually very important, very relevant, in fact, to us as a consumers. Okay. Now, but before we dive deeper into the business of booking holdings, I think there are a few terminologies that we need to be familiar with first. So the first thing I want to make sure is that you guys understand the difference between this thing called OTA, online travel agency, versus Metasearch platforms. Okay, so what exactly is OTA and Metasearch? Now, these are terminologies that you have to understand if you want to look at bookings. So basically, OTA, right, is the platform where you can search for accommodation. You can compare the different options, and what we do is we'll complete the booking, the reservation directly on the platform itself. Then that platform is OTA. So in other words, the entire transaction happens on the platform, over the OTA platform. So OTAs are the one who hold the customer relationship. They will help to process payment. They will also earn a commission from the property. Okay. Examples will include what? Booking.com. Okay, that we are all familiar with. Agoda also. They are all under OTAs, online travel agency. Now, but on the other hand, what about Metasearch platform? Now, a Metasearch platform works very differently. You have to think of it as like a comparison engine. So what it does is it pulls all the information about the accommodation hotel from all the different OTAs like Booking.com, Agoda, Expedia, and so on, plus individual hotel website. They'll pull all the information together, put it on their platform so that users can then compare. Okay, for this accommodation, what prices are this platforms offering, which one is more competitive, right? So, but the thing is, once user is ready to go and make to go and book the hotel, right? Once you click on it, you will be redirected to another website to complete the transaction. In other words, for Metasearch platform, they don't handle the actual booking. They don't take your money from you for booking the accommodation. So their business is not to earn a booking commission. Instead, they usually earn based on cost per click or cost per acquisition fee. So some examples of Metasearch will be like Kayak, which is under Booking Holdings also, or another name that you should have heard before. Sometimes advertisements, you also hear Trivago, okay, or Google Hotels, right? So that is the difference between OTA and Metasearch platforms. Now that we understand the difference, we are now ready to move on to look at how Booking Holdings actually makes money. Okay, so for the full year last year, now I know we're in 2026, but for the full year, fiscal year 2025, that has completed, Booking has generated a total of $26.9 billion in revenue in USD. Okay, and it comes from 3 main revenue streams, as you can see over here. Now, so what do we mean by merchant revenue, agency revenue, advertising, and so on? And let me dive deeper into each. So basically, merchant revenue, they are recognized when Booking Holdings facilitate payment from the traveler at the time of booking. So you see this thing called merchant of record. So Booking act as like a merchant of record. Merchant of record means to say, today if I go and do a reservation on Booking.com, then using my credit card, I make the payment, right? So on my credit card bill, what I will see is I will see booking.com. So they are the seller in the transaction. Okay, so they are the merchant of record. That's what it means. So basically, under merchant revenue, there are three types. One is travel reservation commission, which means to say is the amount that is charged to travelers that after that I minus the amount that I have to pay to the property. Okay, so let's say the traveler, I take $100, but maybe I pay the property $90. Okay, so the $10 is my travel reservation commission. That's what it means, right? So that's why it's an amount that the traveler is being charged minus what I have to pay to the property if today I am booking.com. Now, second type of revenue under this merchant revenue is payment facilitation fee. So all the credit card processing fees and so on. And also finally, some ancillary fees such as like travel related insurance revenues and so on. So that is the most important revenue stream because it takes up about 66% of their full year of revenue. So more than half of it comes from merchant revenue. Now, the second largest revenue stream is agency revenue. So agency revenue happens where Booking Holding don't do the payment. They don't handle the payment. So if you remember, sometimes when you do your trips, right, when you book for hotels, accommodation, there are cases where you pay at the hotel. You pay directly when you're there, then you pay. So you don't pay to Booking when you're doing the reservation. Yeah, so this is where we have this thing called agency revenue. Okay, so let's say I give you an example. Let's say today the hotel room costs about $200 a night. When you go to the hotel, you pay $200. Then the hotel will pay a certain amount, say maybe 15% of it, $30, they will pay to Booking as commission, right? So this is how it works. So Booking doesn't handle the payment at all for agency revenue, right? And finally, a very, very small amount of revenue comes from advertising and other revenues, okay? So this is the smallest one. Basically, sometimes you see advertisements placement across different platforms of booking. They can earn money from that. Plus, they also have the other smaller brands. Aside from Agoda, Booking.com, they have Kayak. They also have Open Table, which is for restaurant reservation. So all this, they can actually take some fees from there, but it's very small. Okay, the main, biggest, most important business is still coming from Booking.com, coming from Agoda. Now that we understand how Booking Holdings make money, the next important question is, who else is actually fighting for the same customers? Who are the key competitors of Booking Holdings? Now, do you guys have any ideas? Who are some of the key competitors of Booking Holdings? Can you just type it in the chat box? Let me know. Who do you think is Booking's key competitor in today's time? Any names that you can remember? Okay, when you do your travel, I'm sure you will come across some of those names, right? Oh, thank you. So we have trip.com, right? Okay, yes, trip.com. And aside from, let me see, what else? Well, okay, you guys only know about trip.com. What else? Klook. Okay, Klook, I would say not so much so important lah, okay, but okay, yeah, for Klook they have a wide range of different kind of reservations that you can do. What else? Expedia, thank you, right? Yes. So we have all these different names. Okay, so some of you guys actually capture the important names because when you're looking at key competitors, you also want to look at it globally as well. What are the most important competitors when it comes to that? Okay, so let me share with you who are the key competitors. The first one that I have on the list, nobody tell me this. What is it? Hotel chains. Now, actually, all the individual hotel chains, especially the big brands, they are also competitors of Booking. Okay, because for all the major hotel brands, think of brands like Marriott, think of brands like Hilton, IHG. Okay, a lot of these brands, they are competitors. Why? What they have that is very attractive is the loyalty program. So there are people who will book directly from the hotel website because they have certain loyalty programs that cause them to be very sticky. Okay, so they don't book via other platforms. So in my view, the strength of hotel chain is really from the loyalty programs. But if you're looking at hotel chains versus Booking, right? Where do they compete? mainly is in the branded hotel segment. That means to say today, for hotels that are running the loyalty programs, usually are the big hotel chains, the big names. If you're looking at the smaller independent hotels, usually they don't have the luxury to do so, because one thing is financial resources. So if you're looking at independent hotels, B&Bs, alternative stays, most of them, they don't have the resources to have a direct booking channel or to even have such loyalty programs. So this is where Booking Holdings, their platform, their OTA platform, remain very important, right? And that's why the CEO of Booking Holdings also said this in their last year Q4 2025 earnings call. So these were his exact words, right? He said that almost 90% of Booking.com's room nights are associated with independent hotels, alternative accommodation, and smaller chain. So it's not with the big brands, because the big brands will do it themselves. They don't need platforms like Booking, Expedia. Yeah. So this is very important because it tells us where Booking's positioning will be. They are not going to be fighting with the big hotel chains head on, but rather I try and dominate the independent hotel side, because this is also the most fragmented segment of the accommodation, and it's also much more defensible segment of the accommodation market, because these independent hotels, they don't have the marketing muscle, they don't have the financial resources to go and do their distribution, to have direct booking channel. So that creates a structural dependency on booking platforms like Booking, right? Now, so that's the first key competitor. Okay. Now the second key competitor that's very important to Booking Holdings is Expedia, as some of you have mentioned, right? Expedia. So Expedia, I would say is the most direct competitor. Is another, they also under Expedia group, they also have many brands. Okay, so they have brands like Expedia, Hotels.com, Vrbo, or Beats, and so on. Okay, and some of them are also OTA brands as well. Now, but what's the difference between Expedia versus, say, Booking? Right. The difference lies in that Expedia's strength is more in terms of its deep penetration in the US market. So over 60%, okay, I didn't write down here, but over 60% of Expedia's revenue is US derived. Okay, and of course, Expedia, they also have their own rewards program now, which is called One Key Cash, whereby if I do my reservation under Expedia, I do it under hotels.com, everything is all under this One Key Cash program. So regardless of which platform that I'm with, right, as long as it's all under Expedia group, then I can all use the One Key Cash. So that is the part where they try to have a loyalty program. Okay, so where they compete is in terms of the direct competition across hotels, flights, car rental packages. But the differentiating point of Booking versus Expedia is that Booking, it has a stronger footprint internationally. So about 90% of its revenue is coming from outside of US, whereas for Expedia, more than 60% of its revenue is from US. So it's very US heavy. Yeah, so that's their difference in terms of their positioning. Okay. Now, aside from Expedia, okay, just now nobody say Airbnb. Okay. Yeah, Airbnb in a way, it operates in the overlapping segment of the market, but Airbnb is definitely a more niche market, okay, because it's just looking at the home sharing or alternative stay. Now, for Booking Holdings, it has a much broader online travel company. They have hotels, they have alternative accommodations, they can book flight, can book car rental, can book restaurant, and so on. So they only overlap in a very small part of the segment, all right? And the last one is Trip.com. So Trip.com formerly is known as Ctrip. So Trip.com is China's dominant OTA. So these days, I think a lot of people like to go China these days, right? Yeah. So if you go China, then you will need to know about Trip.com lah. Okay. So it is the world's fourth largest OTA by revenue. It's approximately $9 billion last year in 2025. And it's very big in China. So in China, Trip.com is estimated to capture more than 50% of the market share. They have very deep supply relationship with the Chinese hotels, the airlines, the rail operators as well. So in fact, for Trip.com, more than majority of their revenue is all coming from the Greater China, right? And China, I would say, is a market that is most significantly untapped. Right, one of the most significant untapped market for booking, and actually in China it's tough to actually compete because of certain. You have to make your platforms very localized so that the Chinese consumers will use, and also there are other barriers as well, right? Actually, previously Booking Holdings did have a 8% equity stake in Trip.com. That means it owned 8% of Trip.com. But after that, in the last few years, they actually sold down the position progressively and they exited fully. If I'm not wrong, it's in the year 2020. Yeah. So this is the area that China is the area that they are not in, right, for booking. Okay, and finally, the last competitor is TripAdvisor. Okay, I would say among all these competitors, right, TripAdvisor is the least important one. And it's the least similar, but I just want to put it up in case, some people are very confused. Hey, everything is Trip something, Trip.com, TripAdvisor. Okay, so what does TripAdvisor do? Now, TripAdvisor is not an OTA. It's just a travel review and discovery platform. Okay, so it's different from the transactional OTA that Booking Holdings brands are under. So that's why it's not a material threat. Of course, they do have a little bit of overlap. Like for TripAdvisor, they have the fork, whereby it's for restaurants booking, or this thing called Viator, right? But it's more for tour experiences, not for hotels and all that. Okay, so these are the key competitors. All right. Now, so far so good. Are you guys following me? If you guys are following me so far, all good. Can you help just type a yes in the chat box so that I know that you guys are all following me? Okay. If you're following me, you understand what I'm talking about, just help me type a yes in the chat box so that I know that I haven't lose your attention. Okay, thank you. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Now, why I asked you whether you guys are following me so far is because the next part is interesting. Now, what I'm going to show you next is the stock chart. Okay, because stock chart is what investors want to know more about, right? It's not just only about the business. You want to see whether it can make money for you, you can profit in the markets or not. And it's important to look at the stock chart also because it tells us how the different players are doing. Because ultimately, over the long term, the market will try to price in who are the long-term winners. Okay, so I'm going to start off with Expedia first. Booking versus Expedia. So if you see on the top chart is Booking, the one at the bottom is Expedia. So EXPE, then this one is BKNG. Now, if you look at Expedia share price versus Booking share price, you notice that they're actually very similar. You notice that the trend is very similar. When it goes up for Booking, it also goes up for Expedia. When it declines, it also declines. The rally are all at a similar position. The decline are also all at a similar period in time. Okay, so fairly similar. If travel recovers, it will rally together. If there's a slowdown, they pull back together. All right. Now, what about for Trip.com? Trip.com also rather similar, although not as similar as what we saw for the Expedia and Booking case. But still, there are some similarities. When it goes up, it tends to rally up together in a similar period in time. But why it is less similar is because Trip.com, if you remember, is very much focused in China, right? So sometimes what happens in China may be very different from what happens in other parts of the world. So that's why it can be more different. Just like recently this year, early of January this year, Trip.com was facing some regulatory concerns where there were news that the Chinese government is going to do an antitrust investigation on Trip.com. So it's very similar, if you recall a few years back, there was the tech crackdown on Alibaba, Tencent, Meituan. Yeah. So now Trip.com is facing something similar. And therefore, if you look at the share price also have come down quite a bit because of the regulatory overhang. Now, what about for Airbnb and TripAdvisor? Okay, for Airbnb and TripAdvisor, you'll see that it's very different. Okay, so Airbnb, of course, the period is different. It's from 2021, end of 2020 all the way to right now because it only IPO'd in end of 2020. Okay, but even if you just compare this period, 2021 till now, right? If I go back to Booking, where is 2020? Okay, 2020 is over here. You compare from 2020 to now, the price chart movement is also very different for Booking versus Airbnb. So in fact, when Airbnb first IPO, there was a lot of excitement, a lot of hype. And also that was the time where we were slowly starting to able to travel again. But fast forward to now, you can see that the share price now is still slightly below its IPO price. So it tells us that, back then there was a lot of hype, but now people, investors, the market, they're trying to reconcile their optimism with the normalized growth that we see right now after the COVID period. And then we have TradeAdvisor on the right side. TradeAdvisor, you can see since 2012 all the way to now, wow, it's very much underperforming. It is the weakest performer of all these companies, not just for 1 year, 2 year, but over the last 10 years and more, it hasn't been doing well. Now, and there's a reason. Okay, so sometimes you see the share price, it hints to you something. And there's a reason why TripAdvisor share price is not doing well. Because if you look at a business like TripAdvisor, what moat does it have? You ask yourself, what is it good at? What is something that differentiates it, that is doing this very important, that no one else can do it? It doesn't actually have a strong moat, right? Yeah, it doesn't really have a good economic moat. Yes, it can influence investors, it can influence decisions for travelers, but it does not fully capture the booking flow, like what the OTAs like Expedia, Booking.com can do. So that's why over time you can see that it's very hard for them to do well in terms of their earnings, their revenue, and of course the share price as well, right? So if we now take a step back to look at just booking only, because today our webinar is on booking, right? Yeah, so if you look at just booking holdings, one question that have come up in recent times is, how come the share price have underperformed over the last year? Okay, if you see since 2025, middle of 2025, since it reached the all-time high over here where my mouse cursor is, it has been coming down, right? So what has happened, right? So part of the explanation is, of course, sentiments and positioning. Now, if you look at the news right now, a lot of things are all centered around AI. Technology, right? So a lot of capital have rotated into AI names, tech names, where they are chasing for all these perceived high growth stories. So in contrast, if you look at travel platforms like Booking, Expedia, they can start to look more boring compared to your tech companies, your AI companies, even though I would say the fundamentals still remain intact. Now, at the same time, of course, there's also geopolitical tensions. So with geopolitical tensions, that will also affect their travel as well, such as in the Middle East. During the recent earnings report by Booking, they did mention that there is some impact due to the Middle East tensions, right? Of course, on top of the geopolitical tensions, there has also been another new concern because of AI. People are worried, will AI disrupt what Booking holdings can do? Because if users now can just ask an AI agent to help me plan my trip, help me do the comparison, help me to book directly, then the role of Booking, intermediaries like Booking, could be changed, right? So this is one of the concerns. Okay, now I want to ask all of you guys, are you guys concerned also about whether AI could replace Booking holdings? Now, if you are concerned, even if you're a little bit concerned, somewhat concerned, very concerned, just help me type a number 1 in the chat box. If you're not concerned at all, okay, then you type a number 2. Okay, so if you're concerned, even if you're a little bit concerned, very concerned, just type number 1. If you're not concerned at all, you think nothing wrong, nothing will change for Booking, just help me type a number 2 in the chat box. Can? Okay, 1 or 2, so that I know whether you guys are concerned or not. Okay, I see 1s coming in. So far, no 2s. Okay, so all the 1s coming in. Okay, so maybe a bit concerned or more concerned, I don't know, but all are grouped under number 1. Okay, so that's why today in this session, I also want to really cover on this part about AI as well. Right, whether it will be affected, whether AI will replace Booking holdings. Now, but before that, before we dismiss this concern of AI affecting Booking or replacing Booking, I think we have to acknowledge that AI is a genuine long-term risk factor. Okay, because the reality is that nobody knows exactly how far can AI evolve in the future. Over the next 5-10 years, what else can AI do better? right? Or will we still be stagnant? Nobody knows, right? And we also don't know which industries will be disrupted, which business model will be challenged, or how consumer might change the way that they make their purchases, right? But rather than just panic, I think it makes more sense for us to examine the situation more rationally and ask whether Booking Holdings is actually vulnerable as what some investors are very scared about. So the first thing that we need to understand is that Booking Holdings does much more than simply help users search for hotels. I would say the real complexity actually comes further down the booking funnel. Because today, when they are the merchant of record, when they are the ones processing the payment, they need to handle more than 100 payment methods, more than 50 currencies from over 200 countries and territories. And as the CEO says, even if you're just dealing with EU, right, you already got all these DSA, DMA, DFA, and so on, all of the different kind of infrastructure, even just within EU. So this might not be the infrastructure that the AI, the LLM providers are likely want to actually build or maintain. So this is something, point number one, that we can think about. But I would think that aside from point number one, what's even more important is this thing called trust. My second factor. The second key factor that we need to consider is trust. Because when you're looking at travel today, travel decisions, they are very personalized, right? And I would say they're actually usually built based on trust. For example, today, if I want to choose which hotel do I want to stay, it's not the same as choosing which show I want to watch on Netflix. So on Netflix, I can let the algorithm, okay, behind the scene to recommend me, recommend me this show, recommend me this movie. Even if I watch, I think it's not nice, right? The worst consequence is I just waste maybe 1 or 2 hours of my time. Now, but if you are doing a trip and you book a hotel, and if it's a hotel that you are not satisfied with, right, it's much more than just 1 or 2 hours of your time, okay? So imagine if today I have an AI assistant, help me to go and do the recommendation, they go and book. But if they do it wrongly, it can ruin their whole entire holiday, right? Such as the wrong room type, you don't look at the cancellation policy, you don't look at the requirements that you want, and so on. So when it comes to booking a hotel, I'm sure you guys, when you're doing your booking, you look more than just price. You will look at the interiors, you look at what facilities they have, the location, the payment options, the reviews. Reviews are very important. For myself personally, I always go through the reviews. I look at the real photos as well sometimes to understand how the hotel room really looked like. So the trust factor, the trust threshold is actually much higher than some other industries, like if you are watching Netflix. It's totally different. Okay, so to be able to appreciate this part about trust, what you can do is very simply just ask yourself, today if you are planning for a family trip, let's say family trip, you need to spend at least $10,000 for your full family. Would you be comfortable to let an AI do the whole booking decision without you checking anything yourself? Now, for myself, I will not be comfortable. I still need to go and read the reviews myself. Read the reviews from the past customers, see the real photos. Okay, so this trust factor, although I cannot put a number to it, but I think it's really important when it comes to travel industry, when it comes to booking of accommodations. Now, aside from that, the third point is that early evidence from agentic commerce has not been particularly encouraging. So actually, this company, Walmart, they have done a real-world test on agentic commerce where they use ChatGPT to try to let their customers do purchase. But the results of their testing is what? They found that the conversion rates were only 1/3 of what they could do if customers go and make the purchase through Walmart's website. So basically, it means to say that consumers, they still prefer to complete transactions on trusted platform. So if I'm buying from Walmart, I like to buy it on Walmart's platform because it is a brand that I trust. So when I go to your website, I trust your brand, there's a higher chance of conversion than me doing it in ChatGPT, right? So this is a real example, evidence to also show that maybe at this stage, at least right now, we are still not ready for something like this yet, okay? And finally, most of booking supply, meaning to say the hotels, they cannot operate independently. Because if you remember just now, I said that 90%, okay, 90% of bookings accommodation business, it comes from the smaller hotel, independent hotel, not the big hotel chains like Hilton and so on. So all this kind of a small independent hotel, they don't have the financial resources to go and maintain a booking engine themselves, to do the payment infrastructure, have 24/7 customer service, by multilingual customer service. They also don't have the financial muscle to do loyalty program. So that's where bookings position is very important when it comes to serving this fragmented part of the market for accommodation. So I think the key question that we need to bear in mind today is it's not whether AI will change travel. I think it certainly will change the way that we travel. But the question is whether AI will eliminate the need for platforms like Booking Holdings, or whether the winners will ultimately be the companies like Booking Holdings, right, that can combine the use of AI together with what they have. So what do they have now? They have their existing distribution. They have their supply relationships with the hotels. They have their payment infrastructure, and they have the branding, the customer trust that they build up. So if they incorporate AI, will they then be the eventual winners over the long term? So at this stage, my own personal opinion is that I think the evidence leans more towards the second one. Okay, but that's just my own opinion. Again, it's not a buy-sell call for you to go and buy or sell Booking Holdings. I'm just sharing with you my own personal analysis, so please do your own due diligence as well. Now, aside from that, I also need to share with you, what's really underpinning the competitive strength of Booking Holdings is its market leadership and, of course, branding. So if you look at Europe alone, Booking Holdings hold approximately 50% of the market share in accommodation. Not just that, in Asia Pacific, they actually also have a very strong and growing position. I mean, aside from China, which uses Trip.com, in many other countries in Asia Pacific, right, Booking is also one of the important platform supported by their Agoda brand. So this strong branding is important because it will create trust, it will create reputation over time. Especially important for travel because we want to have reliability, we want to have a peace of mind. Right? Now, so how did they actually build up this branding, this reputation, and this market share over the years? It comes down to the scale, and it comes down to their strong and sticky supplier relationship that they have built up over the years. So as of, okay, I don't have the date here, but actually this one, 4.4 million is as of 31st December 2025. They have approximately 4.4 million total properties worldwide. Okay, comprising of hotels, resorts, apartments, and so on. Okay, and if you compare this number to Expedia is about 3.5 million. Okay, so it actually has a much stronger in terms of supply depth. Okay, a larger supplier relationship that they have been enjoying over the years. And also, if you remember, they have this deliberate strategy to engage independent hotels because this is where there is a structural dependency on Booking Holdings. So over time, with this large scale, with such a big pool of supply chain, right, the supplier side, it creates what we call data advantages. Because when I have a lot of hotels, accommodation on my platform, I have people coming to do their search, to do their booking. What I have is their data. I know what they like. I can use it to improve my search, to make more personalized suggestions so that my users can have a better experience and will result in higher conversion rate. So the large scale creates this data advantage, and in turn, it becomes a cycle. A virtuous cycle where it will then help to service the future users with a better experience. All right. In fact, if you look at some of the data that we have, I think one of the most important data that we can look at when it comes to Booking Holding is to look at the proportion of traffic that arrives directly without paid search. That means to say, today is not because I click on some advertisements that I come here, but because I know at the top of my mind, I want to book from booking.com. I want to book from Agoda. So I just go directly. I go and do my search there. All right. And find my hotel that I want to stay in. This proportion is about mid 50%. of Booking.com's total room night versus Expedia is about 46%, right? So this is based on Morningstar research. Yeah, so it also tells us how well, in terms of their branding, how strong it is that people come because this is the brand at the top of their mind, right? Now, in addition to that, what we also have is high barriers to entry that is supporting the competitive strength of Booking Holdings, because Booking Holdings, it actually operates in a very fragmented OTA market, as I've shared with you. It services more of the independent, smaller hotels. On first glance, it might seem very easy for new entrants to come in and compete. But actually, in reality, if you want to come in and compete with Booking, right, there's a lot of things you have to do. You have to go and slowly build up all your relationship with all the individual independent hotel chains, right? And in fact, in the past, there have been instances where there are other players who wants to come in to displace Booking Holdings, but eventually they failed, right? So in this industry, they have to spend also very high marketing. And that itself is another barrier to entry. So for Booking, every year it spends roughly about 30% of its revenue. For Expedia, it's about 50% for last year's numbers. And for Airbnb, it's about 21%. So this high marketing spend also acts as a potential barrier to entry for new players who might want to enter this industry, right? So that's the competitive strength of Booking, but we have to be fair when we do our analysis. No investment comes without risk. Every investment involves risk. So we need to also look at what could potentially go wrong for Booking's business, right? So first of all, AI. So we talked about AI just now, right? The concern about how maybe AI could replace what Booking Holdings can do. Now, so yes, I shared with you that I think Booking still has its place. There are things that the AI cannot replace, such as things like trust. But of course, moving forward over the next 5, 10, 20 years, we don't know how far the AI can advance, right? How much more it can do. So this is something we still need to bear in mind. It is still a genuine long-term risk factor that we have to bear in mind when we're investing in Booking Holdings, right? Now, aside from AI, the second key risk is something that we should all be very familiar with, which is the cyclicality of travel demand. Now, when the times are good, when the economy is doing well, people travel more. Then companies, businesses like Booking, even airline companies also, they tend to do better. But when we are in a downturn, in an economic downturn, that's where people spend less. They want to save more because the economy is uncertain. So cyclicality of travel demand is, I would say, is a known risk. It's something that we know, but we cannot forecast when it will happen. I don't know when it's going to be the next recession. We cannot forecast that. So in order for us to actually protect ourselves as an investor against this risk, is that you have to do proper investment portfolio positioning. You have to diversify. Even if you love this company, you cannot have a highly concentrated position only in one company, right? So you have to diversify, and that's how we can protect ourselves, because it's impossible for us to forecast when would the travel demand come down significantly, when would the next recession be, and so on, right? But this is something we need to bear in mind. So it's an inherent risk, inherent characteristic of this kind of business. Now, in terms of the growth potential, one of the very important key areas that Booking is actually looking at, they're working on, and they have also talked about, is this connected trip vision for its platform. Now, what is this connected trip vision? When you hear this connected trip vision, the first thing that you might think about is, you might think that, oh, okay, so what they want to do is they want to try and sell the flight reservation, hotel reservation, car rental, everything on a single platform, right? That is only, I would say, a small part of the story. What the management is really trying to build actually is an AI-powered travel companion for travelers that can help the customer through the entire trip, during the trip, before the trip, after the trip as well. So what the CEO actually mentioned, right, in their previous earnings call about this connected trip vision is this. What they want to do is that, in traveling, right, when you go for your trips, you know that sometimes things can go wrong. So what they want to do is they want to have a service. They want to make use of AI right? To help them create a service whereby it can prevent the problems. It can reduce the worry for travelers, right? So the idea of a connected trip is that they will use tech, they will use personalization to make sure that customers can get what they want. If anything go wrong, we are here to help you solve the problem. Or sometimes even before the customer know about the problem, maybe the AI, the technology can find out about the problem first and help to solve this problem. So I give you an example, which is what the CEO actually mentioned in its previous earnings, is that, for example, today, if I'm in a country, I book my itinerary. I know that, okay, today I want to go, or rather, okay, maybe Wednesday, I want to go museum. Then Thursday, I want to go for a outdoor trip, right? To go for an outdoor tour, right? But if the weather forecast is such that I know that the weather forecast today is for Wednesday is going to be sunny, but for Thursday it's going to be rainy. Then what Booking can do is they can then tell the customer that, hey, this is how the weather forecast is like. Maybe you want to switch around. Instead of going to the museum first on the day one and then going for the outdoor tour on day two, why not you swap it the other way around? Yeah. So this is the example that the CEO actually mentioned when it comes to this connected trip vision. So it's not just about serving accommodation, non-accommodation services, but it's much more than that. So that over time, the travelers will be sticky on Booking's ecosystem, right? So, but the thing is this, yes, it sounds like a very good plan, but I have to tell you that it's still in a very early stage. So they are still building it. It's still in the early stage. And in order for this to happen, AI is actually the enabler. So it's not actually AI versus Booking, but rather Booking also need to try and see how to incorporate AI in order to stay relevant, in order not to be replaced by what the other AI platforms can do. Okay, and one downside of this connected trip vision that they have also mentioned is that it could result in lower margins overall for the entire company. Some slight dilution of the margin, because when you are looking at non-accommodation services, generally their margins, the operating margins are actually lower. So, but this is a deliberate investment. This is a deliberate strategy. So it's not like something is wrong with the business, but rather if they're going to adopt this strategy, this is something that we should understand. It is a feature that comes with it. All right. Okay, so after spending the last 1 hour talking about the business, right, helping you to understand what Booking Holding does, its competitive advantages, its risks, the growth opportunities, the next question is, it's not just only about looking at whether Booking Holdings is a good company or not, but rather also looking at the price that you want to pay when it comes to investing in this company. Because today, even if you have a good business, it does not automatically means that I need to go and buy the share right now at this point. So what I like to do, my investing style, is I will complement fundamental analysis, which is to look at whether the business is good, together with technical analysis, which is to look at the price. I only buy when the prices are at regions where the risk to reward is more favorable. So what do I mean by this? So one of the ways that I do it is to look out for support regions. So here you can see this is the stock chart of Booking Holdings. And if you notice that I've drawn some black color lines. Okay, ignore this red color line. This red color horizontal line is the last closing price when I took this screenshot a few days ago. Okay, so the black color lines are some of the potential support regions that I will be looking out for. In fact, it has already hit the one at the topmost. Okay, so if you see where my mouse cursor is, this was the support region, right? And previously there's a resistance over here. Okay, then the next lower one also support over here where my mouse is, and then the resistance, and the third line, right, was the prior resistance over here. So why do I draw so many support regions, potential levels to look at? Is because if let's say I invest, I go and buy at the first level, but if let's say the price come down more, then this is where I will add in again to lower down my average cost. So that is how I make use of technical analysis. So we're not trying to catch the exact bottom, because we cannot catch the exact bottom, right? But rather we can actually split out our funds to go in at different tranches to slowly lower down our cost, let's say if the share price comes down further. Okay, so actually right now at this region is actually pretty attractive in terms of technical analysis. Right, so that's for the TA side, the stock chart part, and the price that you need to look at when it comes to looking at the TA for booking holdings. So if you want to continue to stay connected for more investing insights, right, you can also scan this QR code to follow us on our various social media platforms, whether is it Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, what else did I not say? TikTok. Yes, investing note. Essentially all the mainstream social media platforms that people use these days, right? So that you can continue to keep yourself up to date with some of the things that we share, all right? And aside from that, if you want to learn further, not just only through this 1 hour webinar, but you want to learn more from us, understand how the way that we look at different parts of the markets or the way that we invest, you can also come down for our in-person coaching sessions. Now, all the sessions are free, they're complimentary. So I've put in all the dates that we have all the way till the end of the year. So our schedule has all been up. So from now is June, right? So every month we will have a session on different topics. So if you want to learn more about REITs, building dividends, right, this is the session that you can attend, and there are 2 available dates. Also for if you are new to investing, you want to learn more about how to get started in your investing journey, the proper way to go and look at a proper framework and the process of how this investment journey can be like. You can also attend the other workshop on creating financial freedom. It is also suitable for those who are not just new. Maybe you have already invested for a few years, but you are still struggling to find your way. You will be able to understand what are some of the common mistakes that people are making that is hindering their journey. And if you want to learn more about TA, let's just now only talk very briefly about technical analysis, right? If you want to learn more about TA, then the October session would be on TA. So you can just scan this QR code, then go to the relevant workshop that you want to join, and I'll see you there in person, right? Whatever I've shared with you tonight in this session, right, on booking holdings is actually part of what I have written in a report format for our investing note portfolio members, right? Because in the interest of time, in 1 hour, this is all I can cover. Okay, but of course, in the whole report, there are other areas. I look at some of the financial numbers and other things that are happening that I am unable to share everything with you. Okay, we are already exceeding 1 hour of our session today. So if you want to find out more about this investing note portfolio, you can also scan this QR code over here to find out more about how we can support you in your investing journey. So basically, every month, you'll receive 3 reports. One on market analysis, and 2 stock deep dive report. Now, this 2 stock can either be US companies, China companies, or Singapore companies as well, including Singapore REITs. So we do it for both the growth investing and the dividend investing side. Now, and one of the best part of this subscription is that aside from getting the reports, you also get to see our growth portfolio and dividend portfolio that we have started, and we have built it up from ground up alongside with our members of investing note portfolio when we first started this portfolio, right? So if you want to find out more, you can just scan this QR code. If you have any questions about it, you can also let me know, right? So thank you for joining us in this session, and we hope to see you around in the next webinar. We'll likely do another webinar in Q3 of 2026 and also another one in Q4 of 2026. So if you want to be in the loop for such webinars, right, you can actually just join our Telegram channel. We will always blast out our Instagram as well. Okay, so you can follow us on various of the platforms so that in case you miss out the message on Instagram, you can still see it on Telegram or Facebook and so on.